Hello everyone. Today I wanted to address one of the most common questions that we get when people first begin Plexus, and that is, what should I be eating and or drinking? Or is there a specific nutrition plan that I should be following, such as the keto or paleo approach? And the simple answer is no. There is no specific approach that Plexus has designated as being the one. However, I think if we reflect on what our supplements are trying to accomplish in our body, the fact that especially as far as gut health goes, we are trying to weed out the bad bacteria that we don't want in there and things like candida, then there definitely are foods that we can use during our week to either work in alignment with our supplements, or there are foods that we can integrate that are essentially going to work against our supplements or make them work uphill. And so when you think about something like candida yeast, candida feeds on sugar. Candida likes to be in the presence of processed foods because it's a much easier environment for it to thrive in. So it would make sense that we would want to focus on foods that are not going to feed candida, right? Because then you are going to gain more healing momentum and work much more in alignment with your supplements. So something that we have found to be very effective approach for people utilizing the Plexus approach to health is to try something called the 80-20 approach. I love this approach because it really is about moderation. None of us can ever eat perfectly around the clock. It's virtually impossible. Plus, it often can be very defeating for people. And so unless you are dealing with something along the lines of an autoimmune disorder, then there may be a time and place where you need to really put some really strict guidelines in place for your nutrition. But if you are someone who is coming into this without an autoimmune disorder, or you've already utilized a pretty strict approach like that to really support your body nutritionally, then most likely the 80-20 approach will be a very good one for you. I have found that I love this approach because I've never felt like I have been in deprivation of anything, and it's been very sustainable because I can still enjoy some of the things that are my favorites. I mean, we all like an occasional treat now and then, especially if we're spending the weekend with some family members or friends and we want to go out for a drink or maybe have a cookie sundae or something like that, right? But so that's what I love about this. It's very sustainable, and I really think you're going to appreciate this approach. The 80-20 rule basically means that 80% of your week, you're going to try to focus on utilizing things like whole foods in your diets, foods that might be a little bit more anti-inflammatory in nature. So we know that gluten and dairy can be inflammatory. So if we can at least limit those things, not necessarily eliminate them, but at least limit them, it's definitely going to do your body a favor. So 80% of my week, I like to focus on whole foods, eating as cleanly as possible, lots of fruits and veggies, lean protein, that type of thing, and then limiting my intake of dairy and gluten. Not that I never have any, I still do. But then the 20% of your week can be, reserved for those things that you'd maybe consider to be a little bit more of an indulgence. Maybe it is some of your favorite kinds of breads that you really enjoy, or maybe you do want to bake cookies with your kids, or enjoy an ice cream sundae, or have a drink out with some friends, or having a quick meal, right? And some of those quick meals do require processed foods. So like I said, it's all about in moderation. I found it to be much more helpful if I split my week up as a whole into that 80-20 versus trying to do that on a daily basis. So for me, that's just been a better approach. So what I tend to do is my 5 weekdays, I try to stick to that 80%. And then on the weekends, I reserve that usually for my 20% because that's typically where on the go or spending time with friends or family, okay? So I hope this is helpful for giving you some starting ideas for what you can do to make some really simple steps in your nutrition. Keep in mind, it does not have to be overnight. We are all a work in progress, and any step in the right direction is a step in the right direction. So I just encourage you, if you've never tried anything like this before, don't try to do all of the pieces at once. Maybe just focus on one meal and one snack of the day. And when you get really proficient with that, then move on to the next one. It definitely was something that I implemented gradually, but I do think it's really well worth mentioning just to keep in mind, the things that we are doing in our day-to-day do really affect our health as a whole. They might not seem like a big deal, if you do it one day here or there, but when you do that repeatedly over time, it does add up. And so the truth is, we can either really work in cooperation with our bodies and our supplements to get that healing momentum going so that ultimately we get those breakthroughs that we first started for, or we can be making choices that are essentially are working against what we're trying to accomplish, okay? So great job. Keep up the good work. I know that a lot of you have already started on your health journeys. If you have any questions about this or you need a little bit more guidance or ideas, feel free to reach out to your sponsor and we would love to help you, okay?